call of the Hogs can be heard all the way to San Francisco.
You're listening to Pod at the Palace with Curtis Wilkerson on Inside Arkansas.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday, and welcome back to the Pod at the Palace. I'm your host, Curtis Wilkerson with Inside Arkansas. New week, new vibes, new opportunities, a pair of them actually for Razorback basketball. Shout out Coffee Club, by the way. A really good Winthrop team rolling in here on Tuesday, a pretty battle-tested bunch from Jackson State on Friday, and then it's getting ready for the big game against Duke on Thanksgiving. So hopefully good times are coming for the Razorbacks, right? I think we need to see a couple strong showings from this basketball team after just a little bit of a lackluster week, despite a couple wins. Like, it could have been a lot worse, right? But I think most people who watched that game on Friday walked away, me included, kind of going, I thought we were going to be able to avoid looking like that. But that's okay. And we're going to talk about it today. Big show lined up for you here today. And buckle up, folks, because it is going to be a long one. Cal spoke for like 8-9 minutes after this Samford game and said a lot of really, really interesting stuff that I want to react to here this morning. We're going to take a look around the college basketball landscape and just some of the other programs that are going through some similar growing pains to Arkansas. And, we'll also take a look back at some of the growing pains that Arkansas has gone through in the past few years. And we're going to talk about recruiting with a big day for the Razorbacks, knock on wood, coming up on Wednesday. And we're also going to have your updated and overdue SEC power rankings that I'm sure won't ruffle any feathers at all. Yeah, right. We'll see about that. Hey, we are presented by our friends over at OZK Insurance in Rogers, where they make insurance simple again. As a 100% independent agency, they shop the entire marketplace to deliver the best combination of costs and coverage, saving you both time and money. Whether it's home, auto, boat, motorcycle, life, or commercial insurance, their friendly team has access to a wide range of flexible options designed just for you. They serve both Northwest and Central Arkansas, so let OZK Insurance be the trusted advisor you never knew you needed. With over 600 five-star Google reviews, start today with a free online quote at ozkinsurance.com or call 479-715-4200. It's OZK Insurance, protection made simple. Okay, so going to be a pretty lengthy first segment of the show here, but I'm going to let this John Calipari post-game clip play, and from time to time, I'm going to stop and talk about some of the points that he's making. Again, this is not like one of those 30-minute, Monday football press conferences. He was up there, it's like 8.5 minutes or something. Some of it was a little bit repetitive, and maybe we'll skip through that. But I do think that, for those of us, and I say us because it was me included, who just kind of walked out of Bud frustrated with how Friday went down, you should hear this if you haven't already. And again, I want to elaborate on a few things. So stay locked in, Coffee Club. You might be the commute crew today. You might have to break this show up into segments if you want to get this thing moving here. But I'm going to start the video. And like I said, we'll stop along the way and we'll talk about it. And then after this first segment, we'll get into some more fun.
Coach, you guys just couldn't quite land the knockout punch tonight. What happened that maybe – what did
You get up 13-15, and I'm yelling, pull it out, and the guy just went and shot it. They make a three, they make a two, all of a sudden it's 9. And again, trying to teach them how to win a game when you're at that point. We ran an offense where we were moving the ball just to use time and then go into it, and no one went into it. They all just stood and throw me the ball.
That said, not necessarily relevant to this, but I understand what he's talking about there, because I know when I was coaching at Lindenwood, we had a series of stuff that we would run based on situations. And so we were a team that was big on running sets. And if we called green and then the set, we had a play that we ran called pop. So if we said green pop, then you come down the floor and you get right into your set and try to get a quick hit, quick look. And then we had yellow pop, and yellow was we're going to get into our kind of our false motion, and our point guard is going to get rid of the rock, and you're just kind of going to go through your movements. And when he gets the ball back at the top of the key, that's when the action's initiated. And then we had red. And so if we called red pop, it was kind of that same false motion. You're just trying to kill a little bit of clock, shorten the game. And then when you get down to the 10-second mark, that's when you get into your actions. So sounds like they've got some stuff like that going on, and they just didn't do it, which, hey, it is what it is, but it is signs of a new team. And if you're going to have issues like that, you probably want to have them early in the year.
My fault, because we've done it, but we haven't done it enough
There you go.
to really drill it and be there. Again, rebounding. Come on. Got to come up with balls.
You're telling us, man.
If you watch the game, who was the player, the reason we won the game? One player. Yeah, it was Billy Richmond. And you know what Billy did? He played so hard and grabbed balls and tipped that Carter knew, I'm never going to play unless I do the same. And guess what? He's right. Why would you not play Billy and play Carter if Billy's going to do that stuff? So what did Carter start doing? The same thing. Now we got to get our fives.
I want to stop it real quick before he starts talking about the fives, but did you guys ever think going into the season that we would have a post-game press conference where Cal was talking about who he was going to play or bench between Billy Richmond and Carter Knox? Good grief, man. That's crazy. In a way, it's a little bit alarming, but like you're 4 games in or whatever. But at the end of the day, I feel like I know what I'm going to get out of Billy pretty much every night. There's going to be some games where he's more impactful versus others. That's usually dictated by foul trouble with Billy because he's going to be aggressive. He's going to give you that energy. Downhill Bill looks like he might be good for a 3 a game now, which is a nice development. Tremendous hustle guy. All those things are going to be there. Carter is just so up and down right now, so inconsistent. Really struggled against Michigan State and was awesome against UCA, and then kind of no-showed against Samford, and hopefully he kills it against Winthrop. But we know what kind of player Carter is, but it kind of seems like, or at least I subscribe to the belief that John Calipari, everything he says up there, he doesn't even really care about the questions. It's what does he want to get off his chest? What does he want the narrative to be? And what type of message is he sending? Might be sending one to his man, Carter Knox.
The big guys, they gotta get more balls. You gotta.
When Cal says the big guys have to get more balls, I keep hearing in my head that they need to grow more balls, because seriously, this is kind of crazy. Now, I am legitimately concerned about this front court situation for Arkansas. I like what we're seeing out of TB right now. And I feel like I at least I know what I'm going to get out of Nick Pringle. Like, he's averaging, I think, about 6.6 boards on the season. And that's with a no-show game against Samford. So it was a little bit better before that. That's about exactly what I expected coming into the year. And that's perfect for a backup 5. And it might be okay for a starting 5, because if you look at this team, a lot of the offense is going to go through your 2 freshmen, and you do have a guy like TB, and you do have a guy like Carter and DJ. And so it kind of seems like your 5s would be, your last option when it comes to scoring or whatever. They got to get Malik Ewing going, man. I mean, it's we don't have to go too deep into it because I know we talk about it a ton, but something's got to give there. That's just such a huge thing. Like, it's a a sore spot that I think stands out above the rest right now for Arkansas is the rebounding situation and getting Malik Ewing playing up to his potential. If they do that, man, the sky is the limit for this team. If they don't, they're still going to be really, really good, but you can't convince me that it wouldn't have a fairly significant impact on what this team's capable of.
Be tougher. You got to play through some bumps. You got to play ahead defensively, but we'll get there. I mean, this is a good win. And let me tell you, I've coached against Lenny. He's a heck of a coach. And
he
offensively,
is.
What they did and controlled the tempo, we were trying to take them out of stuff. They just keep grinding and doing their thing. And they played 2 days ago.
I will say this, but he's right. I think we'll talk a little bit more about them in a minute. I don't know that I recall a whole lot of them trying to take Samford out of what they were doing, aside from they started pressing some after made baskets, which is good. Try to speed them up, try to turn them over. But I do think we need to give Samford credit for their ability to control the pace and the tempo. Their opportunity to make this game interesting was to make it a half-court game and really run their stuff and out-execute you offensively based on where you're at defensively. And they did a really good job of that. So credit to them.
And I believe they went to overtime. And they had that kind of energy and effort. It tells you about their coach.
I think they barely beat UCA on Sunday, by the way. So there's that. For anybody who's doing the thing of like, oh, they're a really good team, though. They are talented. Like, they're the type of team who could win their league and, scare somebody in the NCAA tournament, but they just kind of squeaked past UCA. Like, Arkansas was projected to beat them by 25, should have beat them by 25. They didn't, and I think it was more of a stylistic deal than anything else.
You mentioned the rebounding there. Nick and Malik Ewan combined for just the one rebound. Was there anything Samford was doing in particular in the paint that was causing them issues there? Or?
Physical. They were physical. Kind of like who? Michigan State. They just were physical.
I got to be honest with you. Samford being physical and Michigan State being physical are just two completely different worlds. If Arkansas's issues with their center position grabbing one rebound in that entire game was because Samford was physical with them, then I am gravely concerned about this team moving forward. Yeah, they tried to be physical or whatever, but you're bigger, you're stronger, you're more athletic. You've got guys who have done this before. It's just an entirely different level of athlete. Again, he's not wrong in his assessment or anything like that, but this is almost to me like a calling out of these two guys here saying, listen, it's Samford, bros, and you just got punked by him. Something's got to give here. Let's pick it up.
I mean, I talked to both bigs. I'm with them. I mean, our freshmen have gotten better in what I'm trying to get them to do, but there's still things they got to understand. But they got better. I'm upset about the score because who did I want to play more? Isaiah. He looked good again. Isaiah may move into the 7-8 man rotation. I just got to get him on the floor.
Okay. So, first of all, I love that because I do think Isaiah Sealy looks good out there. And yeah, he still does some freshman things. And I know Cal wants him to be more aggressive to the rim and not settling for the three so much. He's got some of the same stuff that like Malik and Darius have with just like communication and rotations defensively, but he makes plays when he's in there and he's really good in transition. He makes his free throws. He can certainly help this team. And when he's talking about him moving into the top 7-8 of the rotation, that means somebody would move out of it. Who do you think he's talking to right now? Like that, there's two ways to this statement. And one of them is a compliment to Sealy for the things that he's doing. And the other is, hey, Carter, listen, this ain't last year, bro. We have another wing over here. So if you're not going to do the things we need you to do, not be the guy that we need you to be, we'll see if somebody else will be. Hey, Malik Ewan, I'm screaming at you to give energy every time I'm putting you in the game, and I could only play you 8 minutes against Samford because of foul trouble or, laziness or lack of physicality or whatever it might be. We could just not play you. So again, I do think, and I like this because it's strategic. He's not just like rolling guys under the bus necessarily. He's not showing any panic or anything like that or being too reactionary, but he talks to these guys and he delivers his messages in a very specific way. And I'm telling you right now, those are the two that he's talking to.
And whenever a game like this gets close like it did, how much are you leaning on your more experienced guys to pull a game out?
That's why I put DJ in. DJ played well again. DJ's playing pretty good. We work every day on back doors. Every day. Not for this game. I'm talking it's how we play.
I'm going to skip just a little bit of this clip because we know how they play.
Booth. I mean, we guarded him, and he is scoring 30 a game right now.
They did a good job on him.
But then they had some guys that didn't shoot a high percentage.
Yeah, we talked about that. The Zion Wilburn kid that was averaging like a point per game. And then next thing you know, our guy is he goes for 15 points in 16 minutes or something on the squad.
He shouldered them and moved my big guys out of the way, shot layups. I mean, we got a ways to go. We got a chance to being good, but I got to do my job. This isn't about this team. This is about me and what I'm accepting. Trying to do individual meetings to let them know, but also let them know last year I played 6 guys. I'll do that again. I'll play 6. You either deserve to be out there or you don't. And you got to be responsible, and don't put your performance on another player on our team. There are things that you can do to play well. Do them.
I mean, that's pretty straightforward, but I think some of this with Cal, you have to keep in mind that he plays the hits, right? And so you could probably go find a game every year at Kentucky. We've heard him say a lot of this stuff from, last year, even here at Arkansas, and that's part of it. And it's part of his strategy and getting these guys motivated and everything. Because at first I heard that and I'm like, okay, we got guys pointing fingers and stuff in the locker room. Like, what's really going on here? But everything's teachable. And I think a lot of it's directed towards the freshmen and kind of helping them grow up with that maturation process and everything. So, and when I first heard it, it kind of caught my attention. I'm thinking, all right, man, what's going on here? I hope that they don't go to playing 6, but you have to say that because maybe some of these guys feel like, he recruited this rotation the way that he did, so I'm going to get mine no matter what. Like, I'm going to get my looks. He can't not put me in there, so I'm going to do my thing. And what does he say? Like, his best friend is the bench, and so maybe there's some truth to that, and certain guys need to hear this.
Yeah, this summer you talked about DJ wanting to see a little bit more assertiveness from him. With the freshmen deferring and starting to understand that a little bit more, do you want to see more aggression out of him at the offensive end?
I thought he did well. He got the biggest thing when he drives is making layups. Like,
DJ,
I want
yes.
you to drive, but you can't miss layups. And now he feels comfortable going there. He's shooting the ball better, making free throws. I mean, he made the 2 free throws that basically finished the game off. That's why I put him back in. Yeah, you trust him. TB looked wore out,
Yeah.
But I went to him because he was playing better than you coach a game to win. You worry about egos after the game. You worry about individual meetings, getting guys right, let's go. So, look, guys, here's what I tell you. We won the game. We were up whatever and should have stretched it, but they came back. But if you know me well enough, winning is what matters at the end of the day. Now, I got stuff I got to do to get these guys right.
I like that. You worry about the egos after the game, man. He's right. That's good stuff. Calisms, you gotta love it.
The defense on Booth, was he a big part of y'all's defensive game plan, and what specifically did you like about how the way you guys defended?
He was. We just said here are ways he gets off, but we just made sure someone's always on him and pushing up on him. So he's good, though. I mean, Lenny does a great job. I mean, he does. They control tempo the way they move it. You could pick up and play that. We could never speed them up. The runs we made, we'd come back and let up on defense and get beat on a backdoor and a 3. I got to call a timeout. Are you kidding me? We're ready to bury them. Let's go. Well, Lenny never let the game get away from him. They had a chance till the buzzer to win the game. And he's going to do fine. That offense is really hard to guard, and they bought in a short period of time. So they're going to be good.
That's okay. And see, that's the point I was trying to make on the report card is, you can look at Arkansas, right? And you can say, well, it's early in the year. So yeah, the pieces are still trying to fall into place. Guys are trying to figure out their roles. The half court offense, they're going to get some more chemistry and everything like that. And that can all be true. But then you can look at Samford, who has less talented players, a brand new coach, 13 new guys on the roster, and they come out there and execute the way that they did against you, a way more talented team in your building very early in the season. And so on one hand, yeah, I understand some of the growing pains there. On the other, not only do I feel like it should be a little bit better than it is right now, but you also have the aspect of the same last year. And this is not a brand new team. And you have a bunch of guys who were here before that can kind of help bring some of these other dudes along. You've got a guy like Nick Pringle, who's been in the SEC for 3 years, been in a Final Four, who understands these concepts and everything like that. So it is a little bit interesting to me that Arkansas is having, some of the struggles that they are out there right now. And struggles are relative, right? Because they're winning these games. We didn't think that they played well for what, half the game, a little more than half the game against UCA, and they won by nearly 40. Okay, so there's context to be had there. And he was right about this game against Samford, where yes, you had it to a certain point. You should have continued to stretch the lead. They came back. You still won the game. And so that's a good thing. But what was he kind of talking about there? One, killer instinct. And we've seen it. Like when this team really ratchets up the intensity, they've got it, man. You got to have it consistently. I think some of it's just a matter of who you're playing. We said it against Southern. We said it against UCA. It kind of feels like right now in some of these bye games, instead of the focus being on, okay, this is us. Let's get better. Let's work on the things we need to work on. Let's overcorrect. That it's a little bit of, all right, we're going to get this dub and we'll turn it up when we need to turn it up, and we'll do just enough to make it easy and make it look good at the end or whatever. And it almost came back to bite them in this game. So I'm going to be really interested to see what they look like against Winthrop, and do they dial it up a lot more consistently. And it's not just an Arkansas specific thing. You see it around the country. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. But the other part of it is, Cal's right. Samford's really hard to guard. Like it's unique. It's a different style. You're not going to see it in the SEC. You didn't see it in your exhibitions. You damn sure didn't see it from Southern or UCA. The way they run their stuff, the way they create their shots. If you're a team that is struggling a little bit with communication and rotations and team defense, you got a couple young guys out there, that's the type of team that can make you frustrated and give you fits. And so it was kind of ballsy for Cal to schedule him early in the season the way he did, but I'm glad he did, because a team like that was kind of his kryptonite in some of those NCAA tournament losses, early losses. Think about Oakland and how well they ran their stuff, and they were freeing up Jack Golke for all those threes. And then you bring Samford in there with the dude who's averaging 30 a game that kind of runs similar stuff and great actions and reads, counter reads, back doors, flare screens, all these things, except instead of being the whole way into the year, and there's way more game pressure there, but you're like, it's your fourth game. And so I'm glad that they did that and challenged themselves in this way. I wish they would have handled it a little bit better. Really, the last, 4 or 5 minutes of the game, I mean, they had it up to 15. They should have pushed it to 20 instead of let it get to 4. But at the end of the day, one of those things, they're going to be fine. I don't want the narrative to be that, well, this team stinks, or they don't get it, or they're not what we thought they were. It doesn't have to be that. It doesn't have to be that. Team's still really, really good. There's no doubt about it. Are they a finished product? Of course not. Are they as far along as we thought they were? No, maybe not. But I just have a feeling that when they get their next opportunity against Duke, I'm not saying they're going to win that game. We'll see. But they're going to look the part. I think they're going to look the part. I think we will see some of the improvements they have made. Now, if they play these next 2 bye games and they stink it up, then I reserve the right to change my mind a little bit. But let's move on. Today's podcast is also presented to you by our friends at Walter Christmas Lighting of Arkansas. If you're in the Northwest, Northwest Arkansas, or the River Valley, you got to hit them up. Have Walter Christmas Lighting install and set up your house with professional Christmas lighting like you've never seen before. Oh man, they provide the materials, the color, the patterns. They do the installation and the maintenance. They do the takedowns for you in January. And listen, it's a good deal, man. It's hassle-free. They're really professional. They're thorough. They take care of you. They give you what you want. They check on you. It's been a great experience for me so far. And frankly, with our job, we go Monday all the way through Saturday, because we usually have games that we cover. And Sundays, I could be on my roof hanging up Christmas lights, or I can be hanging out with the kiddo. You know what I'm saying? So we hit up Brett. You should hit up Brett, 479-459-1380. He'll give you a free estimate, and then they'll get you taken care of. You can also check out their website at walterchristmaslighting.com, or like them on Facebook by scanning the QR code on your screen. It's Walter Christmas Lighting of Arkansas, your local holiday lighting experts. All righty. Moving on. I cut that a little bit short. Some of the rest of the quotes were a little bit repetitive. He just went a little bit deeper into some of the other things he had said, and was kind of talking about how you got to have, higher demands, and if you accept mediocrity, then that's what you're going to get every single time. And some of the things we've heard him say before, but it all rings very true. But he's not sweating it. I think he knows that this was good for him to get challenged the way that they did. And hopefully it was a wake-up call. Some teams, they have to take an L in a game like that for it to really click with them. Like, okay, we can get got at any time, and we got to keep the big picture in mind here and do all the things we're supposed to be doing, no matter how much better we are than the team that we're playing. And again, like some of it, a little bit of sleepwalking or lacking that killer instinct against lesser opponents. which really they only did to an extreme degree on Friday, right? Because, I mean, they beat Southern by more than 30, beat UCA by more than 30. It was really this game Friday where we were like, okay, because the rest have been romps here. Some of it's Lenny Acuff style being, problematic for Cal, and we've talked about those things there. Some of it also is just Arkansas having stuff to work on, like so many teams throughout the country, and everybody's having growing pains. Like if you guys listen to a Mark Pope post-game press conference, like that man he's baffled right now. Like he's done like a full meta-analysis case studies. He got these guys in for psychological evaluations, trying to figure out why they suck right now and why they're not further ahead, and why he hasn't found an identity. And he's shook about it, to the point where it's like pissing Kentucky fans off every time he gets in front of a microphone, because they're like, brother, it's early in the season. Like, how about you guys just get out there and play ball and play better? What are we talking about here? It's all so philosophical. But they're going through it a little bit. The $22 million roster, Auburn, they nearly lost. They went to overtime with a SWAC school in their opener. You guys remember that? Would anybody watch them play Houston on Sunday? I think they're going to be okay. Missouri, they nearly lost to SEMO. It wound up being a 5-point game. They were losing late in the second half in that one. And then they brought a Big Ten school, Minnesota, but still brought them into their house and beat their ass the other day. So some teams who are struggling in some of these early games like that, and then they're picking up good wins or having really good performances. For some of them, it's maybe a sign of bigger issues. Mississippi State, for example, they got blasted by Iowa State, but then they just in this dogfight with Southeast Louisiana. Who? And so you're looking at them right now, and they don't pass the eye test, and you're really, really worried about what's going on. Well, it's outside the SEC too. You know what I mean? Like Purdue, for example, they got pushed to the brink by that same Oakland team that we were talking about just a minute ago, and then they go on the road and beat Alabama. So this stuff happens, man. There's ebbs and flows to it. Michigan's had some struggles. UCLA looked awful in their first couple bye games there, and then they went toe-to-toe with the same Arizona team that beat Florida in the season opener. So it's common. It happens. I think it's fair to be slightly disappointed Arkansas is not as far along as we thought they were with this roster build. And after the preseason, it wasn't just us that felt that way. Cal said it. Nick Pringle, other guys that on the team have said, we feel like we're ahead of schedule, ahead of where we're supposed to be. And once it gets real and the book starts to get out on you, and teams have a scout on you, you face different styles of play, you just learn a lot more about yourself and the areas that you have to work on, that everybody has to work on. But, having a night where you nearly get popped by a mid-major in November is not uncommon. Just don't want it to become a habit or a trend, which is, again, why I think this week is very important. Like last year, it's kind of interesting, even though they didn't just blow the doors off everyone. And that was something that we would get frustrated with because, style points are important, right? But they won every one of these bye games by double digits last year, even when they were playing with like 6 guys. Like the year before that, Arkansas, they stunk that year, but they lost at home to Greensboro. And they nearly lost to Lipscomb in North Little Rock. They messed around with Old Dominion and Abilene Christian. Those games were too close. 2023, they had some bumps. I remember Troy gave them way too good of a game. Greensboro put a scare into them again. 2022 was, I remember Northern Iowa being a real battle in there. I think that was a game where Devo, he either got ejected or he got a tech. 2021 was the year they lost to Hofstra. They had a lot of success that season. You know what I mean? So my point in bringing that up is that, what we saw on Friday, it's nowhere near an Arkansas specific thing. And pretty much every year there's 1 or 2 bye games that are too close for comfort. And you can call it the Super Bowl syndrome. Teams coming in the bud, they know, okay, if we're ever going to have a shot at a large bid in the tournament, this is the game we got to win. Part of it's that, part of it's playing down to your competition, whatever. But as long as we don't see more of the same against Winthrop or Jackson State, I'm not sweating things moving forward. Improving a handful of areas, and let's see if the Hogs are ready for Duke next Thursday. And I cannot wait for that game. And if I'm going to see it, I got to go check out the Ice Center of Northwest Arkansas. I need to up date the specs, people. Your vision, it's just essential to your quality of life, and professional eye care is a must for you and your family. It's something that goes overlooked from time to time. Most people go and get their checkups at the doctor and everything like that. And, but it's like, the dentist, the eye doctor, sometimes those fall by the wayside. Go check out the Eye Center of Northwest Arkansas. They really have something for everyone over there. Like they're able to perform cataract surgery for you before the end of 2025, if that's what you got going on. The refractive surgery for patients who are struggling with their readers or their glasses or their contacts. You can just go in there and get your standard eye exam with their new provider right now, Dr. Rebecca Brown, as well as their other providers. They're available to fit into your schedule as well. They do Botox and filler and IPL with their aesthetics provider, Olivia Risch. You can buy a treatment in advance for one of your loved ones if you're looking for something for a holiday present. So they got a lot going on over there. Schedule an appointment with the Eye Center of Northwest Arkansas today, 479-442-2020. You can also check out their website at www.eyecenternwa.com for more info. Okay. Where to now? Let's talk Cruton. Then we'll wrap with the power rankings. Everyone's thinking ahead to Wednesday, right? How could you not be? Arafan Gian, decision day. Baba Aladaton, decision day. It's a big one. And, expecting Arafan to go to Houston at this point. I would love to be surprised and the Razorbacks get him. And boy, there was a time there where they felt really, really good about their chances, with Houston always kind of looming large as the favorite who had that last visit there. So we'll see. I think he's Cougar bound, but I listen, I hear all the rumblings of, and the smoke of, Maryland, Georgetown, depending on who you ask, making big pushes for Baba. Listen, that's real. As I understand it, like the competition hasn't just taken their ball and gone home. Okay. Nor should you expect them to for a player of this caliber. This sounds pretty familiar to me. Kind of like previous recruitments, right? And we've laid out the examples here recently, but JJ Andrews. Oh, he's Missouri bound until he wasn't. Abdu Toure. Well, Providence, though, might have got him until they didn't. So we'll continue to do our due diligence, checking up on that until decision time every single day. We will. But there's also some nuance to it. You know what I mean? Like late last week, the that late push from the contender stuff started to come out. Those reports started to surface. And then once we got into the weekend, it started getting pretty quiet. And we're probably about to enter 0 dark 30 mode here in the days leading up to the decision. That's kind of the way these things always work. Remember, we felt that way for a minute about Toure. And, what do we say at the time? Like, all right, nothing's really changed, so we still feel good about it, but it's quiet. It's too close for comfort. Sometimes that's by design. And then the night before the announcement, a lot of way more concrete stuff started coming out. There's just a little bit of gamesmanship here involved with keeping up the suspense, leading up to decisions. So don't let that get you too worked up, that kind of stuff. Like I'm not worried about this from a financial standpoint between Arkansas and Baba. I can tell you that. I have no concerns about Baba or his camp's belief or relationships with John Calipari, or how impressed they were with the University of Arkansas and Fayetteville and everything it had to offer. In fact, I have reason to believe that Arkansas might be the reason he is announcing this week instead of taking a few more visits and waiting until the spring. So my prediction is for Baba to land at Arkansas. I don't expect that to change. But like I said, we'll keep looking at it here the next couple of days. And if something does or something new comes up, I'll let you know. And I'll let you know why. But I know people get uncomfortable the closer you get, and you see the reports out there of, oh, is it a toss-up now? Is it all this? Is that? Everything I've got right now says Arkansas with the others not giving up yet. And I like being in that position. Beyond that, thinking about the plan here, and it's weird because this is one of those years where, so many guys are going to be waiting. And that's why I really do get the sense that, once we get into the spring, it's going to be active. It's going to be important for roster stuff. But I kind of feel like we're going to be talking a lot about high school kids, and we're going to be talking a lot about retention efforts and not so much about portal. Again, someone's going to be dependent. We'll talk about that in a second, but the plan, as I understand it, land Baba, first of all, and then they're very motivated over there to add at least one, or add one of Jordan Smith Jr. or Brandon McCoy. And that's the goal there. And I feel like they'll be able to do that. I mean, you're neck and neck with Michigan for McCoy. I would have Arkansas as a slight edge there. Some people would say Michigan. I think it's probably pretty tight, but there's also a long way to go, I think. And with Jordan Smith Jr., I just think that's more open than maybe we believed or maybe was initially reported, because it's always kind of been a foregone conclusion that he was going to be Duke bound. And if not Duke, then Arkansas. But I think it's more open than that. And they might even be open to some other contenders in this mix also. But I think that is a good thing for Arkansas. So we'll see how it plays out. Beyond that, I'm told that should he play college ball next year, like he said he intends to, that Mika Murinen is still very much an option and somebody they would like to have. And yes, that could be with Baba as well. A 3 and 4. And yeah, you'd have some things to figure out on the wing there. We'll talk about that in a minute. But, if Arkansas lands Baba, don't just write off Mika is what I'll say to you. So don't be surprised if this winds up being a 5-man freshman class when it's all said and done here. If they have it their way, that might be exactly what it is. So we'll see. I would say expect the center position to be addressed via the portal. Don't be surprised if we see some moves in the international waters. There is a reason beyond adding depth to your roster why Elmer and Paolo and Kareem Rattel are Razorbacks right now. And some of it's about relationships with agents and playing the long game and doing favors. In fact, when Arafon pops for Houston, as we expect on Wednesday, a big part of that is going to be because of someone who is currently on Houston's roster. And it kind of helped lead to this point. It could be the same thing brewing here for the Razorbacks when it comes to international waters. So I would say this would especially be the case if Malik Ewan continues to not be quite what Arkansas thought he was. Because for a minute there, the thought process was, okay, you're losing TB, you're losing Pringle to eligibility, but Ewan's going to be really good for you. What does his draft stock look like? Because he might be a guy you could bring back. And then do you just need to go replace Pringle? Do you go get a 4-man and then Paolo's ready to help you more? Those are some of the conversations. Now, right now, if you look at it, you probably say, okay, they might need to go get a couple, legit big men out of the portal, kind of like they did this year, and just hope you hit better. So we'll see. We're 4 games into it, but I would expect portal additions to come via the front court. Beyond that, I think it's going to depend on retention. And going into the year, it was my understanding that they were probably kind of anticipating a heavy attrition year because of the draft. Like you got TB and Pringle who are running out of eligibility. Okay, so there's 2 guys gone. But between, I would say keep an eye out for how the rest of the year plays out for guys who have options. Like, if we're being honest with ourselves here, Darius Acuff and Malik Thomas are out of here. They're going to the league. Okay, cool. It's been real. But I look at Billy and Carter, and then I see JJ Andrews and Abdu Toure, as well as what we're anticipating to be Baba, and I know something has to give there. And it was almost like a foregone conclusion coming into the year, like, okay, well, he's gonna be a first-round pick. He hasn't really played like one yet. Long, long way to go. But how his season goes is going to be telling. Same thing for Billy, kind of the one thing holding him back as a prospect was that shot. So what do things look like for him? So it's going to be very interesting to see what this looks like. We could go for, in a situation where you have a decent amount of retention again, and you supplement it with some super talented freshmen. You're strategic in the portal. It kind of looks the roster build the way it did last year, or it could be a pretty significant overhaul. which doesn't scare me either, because that's kind of been the John Calipari way of doing things for his entire career. He's the one and done king. So it's gonna be fun, man. Plenty of time for it to work itself out, but I'm very interested to see the twists and turns here along the way. It's gonna be a fascinating spring. We're gonna have to be strategic about how we go about covering things, because everybody loves the portal season stuff, and I have a blast with it too. But boy, we spent a whole lot of time talking about a whole bunch of shit that wasn't going to happen in the portal. They wind up just getting 2 guys there. Now we'll maybe have a better handle of exactly what they're looking at and what those needs are. I think the retention stuff might be a little bit more clear this year. But with that, and then your priorities in the freshman class, because last year was Nate Ament. And do you remember how long that kind of held things up, where we were looking at this guy in the portal and that guy in the portal, and we're thinking about, okay, what NIL? Why don't they give him this much? Why aren't they after this guy? Oh, it's because they've got this on the table for Nate Ament, and they got to wait until he makes a decision. And in a way, we're going to be seeing probably some more of that, depending on exactly when guys like Jordan Smith Jr. or Brandon McCoy or Mika Murinen are motivated to make a decision. So it's going to be fascinating. So I said buckle up at the beginning of the show. Buckle up, after Arkansas cuts down the nets in Indianapolis, because it's going to be a wild ride for sure. Oh man. Okay. Let's get into. Well, actually, we got to pay one more bill, and then we'll get into our SEC power rankings. That bill, it's our friends over at Blue Ember Smokehouse, a bill that I'm always happy to pay. In fact, I'm getting ready to do that. I'm calling them in the morning and getting set up for a holiday meal. And if you're not familiar with Blue Ember, I mean, you should be. It's a family-owned smokehouse. They specialize in handcrafted barbecue, and let me tell you something. It is, man, it's the real deal. You can see it there on your screen. Those ribs cutting into the turkey, the brisket. It's so good, man. But they'll take care of you for the holidays, and you can spend some time with family and loved ones, and they can cook the meal for you. That's my kind of action right there, especially when we got a basketball game to cover that night. You get a whole turkey that feeds 18 to 20 for $70, a turkey breast that feeds 12 to 14 for 55, or a whole ham that feeds 18 to 20 for $65. They've got all the sides: mac and cheese, green beans, potato salad, baked beans, sweet potato casserole. You can get half pan or a full pan. And all you got to do, make sure, and we're getting close now, get your orders put in by November 21st, and they'll be ready for pickup by November 26th. You can check out their website, www.blueembersmokehouse.com, or give a call to any of their 6 locations in the state of Arkansas. You can see all the numbers right there: Fort Smith, Jonesboro, Texarkana, Little Rock, Hot Springs, and Rogers. They'll get you taken care of. So thank you for supporting your local Blue Ember Smokehouse. Okay, SEC power rankings. Here we go. It's like a week and a half delayed. I got to be honest with you. Excuse me. I had to get a drink. I almost waited a little bit longer. I don't feel great about these yet, because there are too many teams that I think will be good, or that I think are bad, who just haven't tested themselves. They haven't played anyone. So you've got like half the league that has really challenged themselves, and I think we've learned a lot more about. And then you have some who have just played, 3 or 4 bye games. And it's like, okay, what do I really know about you? So I'll be honest with you off the top. I don't necessarily feel great about these right now, but I do think we're getting closer and closer to having more clarity. By the end of the month, we'll update this again next week on Monday. And then I think the following week, like after Feast Week, pretty much everyone will have challenged themselves in some way. I think we'll just have a lot more of a better barometer of the pecking order. But keep in mind, like the power ratings, this is not where I think teams are going to finish, or who I think is better. Nothing like that, because that's a completely different set of circumstances. But it's more about what we've seen so far to this point, the eye test, the results, the style points, everything like that. And, my dilemma with the schedule stuff, because I watched every team play now, it's hard. You know what I mean? Like it's hard for me to watch Auburn, for example, play Houston, and then try to evaluate them compared to Tennessee, who's played no one. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of the dilemma. What I will say, the tough part about that is, like, do you fade those teams who haven't played anyone, or do you hold steady? And I lean towards trying to hold steady as much as I can, but I also lean towards teams who have just challenged themselves and shown well for themselves, even in a loss. And so, like, you'll see, like, Arkansas is taking an L, Florida's taking an L. Like, some of these teams, I'm not penalizing that hard for that because they, played a good game so far. Now, some of these teams who have challenged themselves and gotten their butts kicked or haven't looked good in the process, it's a little bit different. So it's tough. It's not an exact science, but it's going to get easier the further along we get into it. So I'm going to pull it up, and we'll start at the bottom and walk our way through it. At the bottom, I've got Texas A&M, 16th, bringing up the rear, man. And it's interesting because I do like Bucky McMillan's roster over there. I do not like what I have seen from Texas A&M. I don't know if you guys have watched them at all, but they are a team who is, quote unquote, challenged themselves a couple times here, and it hasn't gone well for them. They won a couple bye games early in the year, but they played Oklahoma State and they got beat by 24 on the road. And then they played UCF, who is a not very good Big 12 team, and they got beat double digits at home. So that's not impressive, not a good start for those guys. So, it is what it is. I got them at the bottom right now. I do think that they'll wind up being a pretty decent team before it's all said and done. But right now, sheesh. 15, I got South Carolina up one spot from where they were. I had them at the bottom of the league going into the year. And it's a team that we don't know a whole hell of a lot about yet. 3-0. Like, I like Michi Johnson. The Eli Ellis kid is going to be an interesting player there for him. Miles Studi. Like, they've got some guys in there that are entertaining. I think they're going to be a little bit better than they were last year, but not sold on that front court. At any rate, they're 3-0 right now. They had an overtime game, a close call against Southern Miss. That's probably not what you're looking for there, but still got them near the bottom. LSU, I've got them right in the exact same spot. I haven't moved them yet, so I've got them at 14. They're 3-0 right now. I mean, they've got 3 basically blowout wins. They played Tarleton State, New Orleans, and Florida International. So you tell me, what do we know about about LSU just yet? Not a whole hell of a lot. At 13, I've got Mississippi State. That's a 5-spot drop from where I had the Bulldogs coming into the year. I thought they were going to be better than they've looked so far. They beat North Alabama in their opener. They got smacked on a neutral floor by Iowa State. Now, Iowa State's very good, but I kind of looked at Mississippi State as maybe a fringe top 25-ish type of team, and they really got punked there. So that was eye-opening. And then on Saturday, they played, Southeastern Louisiana, and they're fortunate to have won that game. They got out of there with a 7-point win, and Southeastern Louisiana, they're 242nd at KenPom. And it was a struggle bus for them. So it's really been the Josh Hubbard show. Other guys haven't really stepped up yet. Not looking great over there in Starkville. At 12, I've got Oklahoma, and this pisses me off because you guys know how bullish I was on them coming into the year. And, man, they looked really good in exhibition season. So I was thinking, all right, cool. I had them at 7th. Well, now I've got them at 12th. And you want to talk about disappointment so far. And they beat St. Francis in their opener. They beat UAPB. Congratulations. They got run off the floor by Gonzaga, who I think is a very, very good team. They've got like Final Four capability, but they were non-competitive in that game. And then they lost to Nebraska ball the other day on a neutral floor, which, like, Nebraska's fine. They're a fringe tournament team. I say that, but they never make the tournament. But just kind of a middle of the road average Big Ten team. And they lost that game as well. So a middle of the road average Big Ten team is probably a lower part of the pack SEC team, and they just beat Oklahoma there. So that's where I've got them. Texas, I've got at 11. Haven't really seen much out of them outside of that game against Duke, where I thought they played pretty well in the first half and then not so well in the second half, and Duke pulled away from them and won by about 15, which feels about right to me. So not moving them too far yet. I'm just having a hard time buying fully into any team where Tremont Mark is your key guy, your go-to guy there. Georgia, I've got it 10. They've been a pleasant surprise to me. Georgia has, honestly. I've moved them up 5 spots. I had them at the bottom of the league. I just wasn't feeling it with the roster. And I wouldn't say they've necessarily challenged themselves yet. They beat Bellarmine, but they beat them by like 50. They beat Maryland Eastern Shore. We know how that goes. They beat Morehead State, scored 120 on them, but they beat Georgia Tech at home, as you should, but they did it, right? So they won that game by 5, but kind of a fun team there. Jeremiah Wilkinson, the Cal transfer, has been good for him. Kind of like we were talking about, he was going to have to be. They still got Blue Kane over there. Kanan Catchings is an interesting transfer for him. But they've also got the Wilkins kid, Dominique Wilkins kid. So who's like basically like a freshman TB. You know, he's like 6'9", 180 pounds or whatever. He's throwing down in-game windmills and everything like that. So they might have something there with him. And then you got Santos Surreal, who can block some shots for you and everything there in the paint. So might be a little bit better than I gave him credit for. So I bumped him up 5 spots, man. What do you want from me? Missouri, I've got at 9th in these power rankings, and it's interesting because I actually dropped them a spot from where I had them. It's not that they've been bad. They beat Howard in their opener. They really stunk it up against SEMO in that game at home, and they were fortunate to get that win. But they beat up on Minnesota. It was interesting. They wound up winning that game by 23 against Minnesota, but they were like his points in the second half there was really close. And they just put a pretty emphatic run on them. We'll see about Mizzou. I'm still not 100% sold on that roster. I'll tell you who I am sold on though. It's Mark Mitchell. You know, one of 2 all SEC players along with Josh Hubbard that's back this season. And dude looks good. He looks pretty good in there. So it's going to be a fun matchup between him and TB whenever those 2 teams lock horns. Let's see here. We've got at number 8, Ole Miss. The Ole Miss Rebels. Let me pull up their schedule real quick. And they're off to a 4-0 start. Yeah, they're one of those teams that we just don't know a whole hell of a lot about yet. Although I will say they played Memphis and beat them. They beat that Southeastern Louisiana team we were just talking about that Mississippi State was fortunate to get a win over. They beat them by 30 in the opener, beat Louisiana Monroe. They beat Memphis by 6. That was a close game. And I know we look at it and we're like, man, Arkansas and Auburn both beat the hell out of Memphis in exhibitions. Well, I think Memphis learned from that. They went and got a nice win over San Francisco, and they battled with Ole Miss there. So they're going to be better than they were in those exhibitions. Maybe not as good as usual, but yeah, 4-0. We're still, I think, in a spot where we need to learn some more about them. They've got this kid, Elias Camerdine, who's a senior guard for them that I think is going to be a really nice player. It's kind of wondering what their backcourt situation was going to look like. So that guy stepping up is helpful. AJ Storr has been pretty good so far. Travis Perry, not so much. He's 4 of 17 from 3. And I know that's somebody they're going to be really relying on, but they've also got Malik Diaz. So I think Ole Miss is going to be right there in the mix. Vanderbilt, who I egregiously had at 12 coming into the year. And I felt so silly about that. I think it was a couple of days later where I even told you guys, like, I just got that one wrong. I should have had him a lot higher. And I moved him up 5 spots here. And I've got Vandy now up at number 7 in our power rankings. And, it hasn't been anything crazy. But when we talk about that eye test, man, they've really looked the part to me. I've watched them twice now, and I've just been super impressed with what I've seen. Blew the doors off of Lipscomb. They played UCF, who, as I said, not a very good Big 12 team. So here's the thing. They go on the road and beat UCF by 12. This is the same UCF team that went to Texas A&M and beat the Aggies by 12. So hence the difference in where those 2 teams are ranked there. They beat up on UAPB. I'm looking at their non-con schedule. Pretty light. I mean, they play SMU December 3rd. They got Memphis on the 17th, Wake Forest, but nothing crazy on this. So they're probably going to rack up a lot of wins, and they're going to get the style points, on Ken Pom. They'll probably be high in the net because they blow everybody out. And then we'll really, really see what they are come SEC play. But it's a fun team, man. Frankie Collins in there, Duke Miles. It's an interesting backcourt. You still got the shooter in there and Nickel, McLaughlin, the big fella. So not a bad team. Credit where it's due. I've got Kentucky at number 6. I know some folks will get mad about that. Here's the deal. It's not just because they lost to Louisville, and there are levels to this, right? Like, it wound up being an 8-point game, but Louisville kicked their ass. They just did. That's part of it. Kudos to them for not, hanging it up and losing by 25. They made a run at them. Okay, fine. but it's the aftermath of that. You know, we talk about the eye test with Vanderbilt, and I haven't been overly impressed with Kentucky just yet. In some games I have, but there's also like the ear test, and some of the things that you hear coming out of that program right now, it's a little bit alarming to me. Not to the point where I'm like, oh God, they're gonna miss the tournament, they're gonna stink, but they got a lot to figure out. And every time you put Mark Pope in front of a microphone, he's just very like overly concerned with the way he talks about his team. And there's also the injury concerns that I have to factor in here. I know they're saying maybe Jaden Quaintance comes back in, early December or whatever. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. But when's the last time they told the truth about something that's going on with an injury? I think about Lamont Butler. I think about Jackson Robinson, Kerr Kriisa, some of those guys last year. And all those were a mess. And now you got the Jalen Lowe situation where he's popped his shoulder out again. I hate that because he's a fun player. He's a good player. And I never want to see anybody out with an injury. But like, what is that going to look like? And you just see this pattern over there. And I'm not telling anybody how to live their life. So if Quaintance is healthy and he's ready to go, I really want to see my guy get out there because he's a hell of a talent. But I don't know if it was me and the folks over at Kentucky gave me a timeline and I said, hey man, we think you're going to be cleared by December 1st. I'd be like, all right, see you in January, because there's just something going on over there. That's a little bit weird. Now, when they get to full strength, they're going to be tough. I think they have some issues shooting the basketball and some lineup combinations that they're going to struggle with because of that, but still a very talented team. I would be surprised if we look up at the end of the year and they're not higher than 6th. Tennessee, I have at 5. I got them right where they were. And this is one of those teams I just don't know what to do with. They've only played 3 games. They played Mercer, Northern Kentucky, North Florida, and beat all 3 of them handedly. I don't know that we really know much about them. When I've watched them, I will say I think Nate Ament has looked pretty damn good, but he's looked pretty damn good against low and mid majors. So I'm still going to be interested to see how it translates throughout the grind, right, of playing some better teams and everything, but they need him to be great. And so far, I think he's looked real solid. Jacoby Gillespie's really good. That's a hell of a get for them. They needed that. Outside of that, the backcourt, I don't know, man. But I do think they've got some things they're going to have to figure out there. Amari Abram plays for him some. Bishop Boswell play for him a little bit. I don't know, but their front court's sturdy. It's not great. It's not, a bunch of offensive skill and a bunch of crazy stuff right there. But JP Estrella is a good player, and he's going to be a force for him in there. He was hurt last season. Jalen Carey from Vanderbilt's a good player that they picked up out of the portal. Cade Phillips is another one who I really liked last year, big time lob threat. And they got Akpara, who's a great shot blocker. So they're going to be good defensively. We know that. We'll see if they have enough firepower to really maximize. We'll see what it looks like with Nate Ament. They haven't played anybody yet. And looking at their schedule, it's going to be a minute before they do. Well, that's not true. Oh, no, I guess they're in players era. So, they got Rice, then Tennessee State. But a week from today, they play Rutgers, which you're not going to learn anything about them from that one because Rutgers stinks. But then they get Houston. So that's the game I want to see. And they got Syracuse on the schedule, Illinois, Louisville. So it's about to heat up for them. It just hasn't yet. And we'll see where they're at here in a couple of weeks. I moved Auburn up 2 spots to number 4. And I feel about Auburn kind of like I feel about Arkansas, kind of like I feel about Florida at this point. Boy, they looked shaky in one of their exhibitions. They looked really good in another one. And they damn near lost to Bethune-Cookman at home in the jungle in their opener. And that's not something you want to do there. To their credit, after that, beat up on Merrimack, beat up on Wofford, and then they went toe-to-toe with Houston. Now, this is a home game, essentially. They played in Birmingham, and it's funny because so you're not playing on campus, but instead of playing in front of 10,000 that you can fit in the jungle, there were 17,000 in that arena, and it was obviously a very pro-Auburn crowd. So, I do consider that when it goes into it, but they went toe-to-toe with them, and they were physical. They were tough defensively. They played with a lot of confidence. And, you could argue that they should have won the game. They didn't. But I will say Houston looks more gettable than maybe I thought going into the year. So that's going to be a hell of a fun game there. But I think you're going to have some ups and downs with this Auburn team as they look to figure some things out. They did struggle from the free throw line. Tell me if you've heard that before. They missed 12 free throws and lost the game by 1 in this one. Keyshawn Hall is really good. He's going to score a ton of points for them. He'll probably lead the SEC in scoring. And he's going to be an interesting matchup for Arkansas whenever they play that game. Todd Pettiford, obviously very good for him. Keyshawn Murphy's solid. But they've got some good pieces in there. They got to figure some things out. I think Stephen Pearl's doing a pretty good job right now. So I despite the loss, I thought they really passed the eye test for me on Sunday. So I moved them up. Arkansas, I dropped them a spot again. Boy, they looked great in their exhibitions. They looked great against Southern, blew the doors off of UCA. The Samford game is one that made me consider maybe moving them down another spot. But again, like when you look at the league, it seems like several of these teams have had one of those and they've shown up well in another really big spot. And we can yell all day about how they should have won that game against Michigan State and missed opportunity here, missed rebound there. And I get it. Those are all things they have to improve on, but teams don't go to the Breslin Center and win. They just don't. And it's happened one time in 85 tries in November in Tom Izzo's tenure over there. And Arkansas had the balls to go play them, and it was a one-possession game. And you had multiple opportunities in the final minute there to win the game, kind of just like Auburn did against Houston earlier today. The only difference was Arkansas was playing in front of 15,000 Michigan State fans, and Auburn was playing in front of a packed house of their own. So I'm not going to burn Arkansas too much for that. We know they got things to work on. I still really like the upside. I think Arkansas has one of the best backcourt wing combinations in the country. I'm concerned about the front court. So I've got Florida at number 2 still, and they have not necessarily impressed. They look shaky at times. I feel the exact opposite about them, to where they have the best front court in the country. They have a shaky backcourt. Which do you want? I think guards can get you a little bit further, but it's an interesting spot for Florida to be in right now. And I was tempted to move them down a little bit because I watch them. I'm like, man, Xavier Lee and Boogie, those two dudes are struggling out there right now. Doesn't look great, but that front court is so tough. It's just a matchup nightmare. They lost by 6 to Arizona at the beginning of the year. A really, really good Arizona team. I played them on a neutral. Okay, since then, though, like they beat up on North Florida, fine. They struggled with Florida State at home, but they beat them, and that's an ACC win. And so from there, I was thinking, okay, like, it's probably one you should win by, I don't know, 10, 12 points. You snuck out of there, but you got the dub. And then they played a better, I think, Miami team a few days later, and they kind of beat their ass. So they beat Miami by 14 today. And that's a Miami team that I think can make the tournament. Like Jim Larinaga out of there. They got a roster overhaul with Jai Lucas. And I thought that was a pretty good win for Florida. So I kept them at number 2. They got to figure some things out, though. Like, I mean, Alex Condon, Tommy Houck, Chinyalu, that is just a tough 3-4-5 combination there. It's a matchup nightmare. Like I said, their guards kind of stink right now between Boogie and Xavier Lee, but like the Klavzar kid came off the bench and made a bunch of shots for him today. They got to figure some things out there for sure, but still a super talented team with championship pedigree. I moved Alabama up to number 1, and yeah, they took a loss, but I mean, how could you not? Guys, they passed the eye test, don't they? I don't know how we could argue that one. They went to the Garden and took it to St. John's, and they looked really good doing it. They did lose to Purdue at home, but it was a hell of a game, a back and forth, and Purdue's a team that a lot of people think is going to win the national title this year. So they look good. That backcourt's ridiculous. The Arkansas-Alabama matchup, backcourt on backcourt, is going to be insane. But like LeBaron Philon, Aiden Holloway, that's a good group there. They're trying to get Reitzel going and healthy. They still don't have Jalil Bethia yet. He's going to be there. So they're not even operating at full strength, but I think they've been really pleased with what they're getting out of Taylor Bowen. And they've got some, Aiden Sherrill's been fine. They've got some rebounding issues, kind of like Arkansas. They got a really dynamic backcourt. Sound familiar? They've got some pieces in the front court. Sound familiar? But then they just got absolutely dominated. They got out rebounded by 25 against Purdue at home. Still nearly won the game, but that's something they've got to figure out there. So there's some similarities with some of these teams at the top where, very good. They got certain pieces where you're like, all right, these dudes could do some serious damage in March, but there's like a glaring weakness here or there that it's still too early to see how long it's going to impact them or if they can figure it out, but we got our eyes on it. So there you have it. It is a Monday morning, and we've gone an hour and 5 minutes. I normally I would just break this up a little bit and do it over the course of a couple of days, but tomorrow is going to be a game day preview as we get ready for Winthrop. And then, Wednesday morning is going to be report card day. And then obviously we're going to have recruiting stuff on that day. Then you got another game on Friday. So I was like, all right, I just know going into this, it's going to be a long one. And I feel like it's only fair since we didn't do a show on Sunday. Kicked it with the family a little bit. We took the dog and the baby out to the winery out to Sassafras. It's where me and Michelle got engaged, by the way. But it was a real good time out there. Michelle had a glass of wine. She's earned it. I had a cold one. I don't know if I've earned it or not, but I enjoyed it. But, the baby just slept the whole time. Everybody was, walking by, oohing and ahhing at him. But the highlight of the day, Slim Jim, the wiener dog, he's 14 years old and he's got arthritis and he's got cancer that hasn't, it's a tumor, but hasn't impacted him too bad yet. And so we're on borrowed time and we're super grateful for that. But that old man was out there sniffing around. And he sprinted up a flight of stairs. There's no way in a million years I thought he would be able to get up some stairs, and he just went right to him and went up there. And it was like a proud dad moment. It made me very happy to see my little man do that. And he was getting ready to run back down him. I was like, nah, man, I got you. So I picked him up and carried him down. But he always hangs out in the office here with me when I'm recording, and it's 12:39 a.m. and he's done. He's just laying on his fat side right now, snoozing, sleeping it off. I've also got the monitor up, keeping an eye on it. And thank goodness Michelle's getting some rest, but the little guy's he's asleep in the bassinet too. So I better be quiet whenever I wrap this thing up. But I'm gonna get out of here. I really appreciate everybody for tuning in, tapping in, subscribing to the Inside Arkansas YouTube channel. If you haven't, go ahead and do that while you're here. And we'll talk about this Winthrop game tomorrow. It's going to be another interesting matchup for Arkansas. I think a better pace, a better stylistic matchup for the Razorbacks, but a team that's going to have some talented players that's dangerous if you're not ready to play. So we'll get into that tomorrow. Looking forward to it and looking forward to catching you guys again. It's been Curtis Wilkerson with Inside Arkansas on the Pot the Palace. You guys have a good day. We'll see you in the morning.